Welcome back, everybody. I'm James,
I'm Crystal.
and this is Our Killer Obsession. Thanks for joining us on our final Halloween edition episode. This is going to wrap it up for the month of October and our set. Just a quick reminder, we have a link in the description for any suggestions on any cases or any way to improve our show for you.
All right, guys, to wrap up our October marathon of spooky true crime Halloween stories, I'm bringing you the story of Ed Gein, the Plainfield butcher. We have to end our Halloween extravaganza with the man that inspired so many of the boogeymen that haunt our movie screens and sometimes even our nightmares. Ed Gein. Gein's gruesome crimes have inspired movies like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses, and The Devil's Rejects, and characters like Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
And if you've seen a couple of them, if not all of them, we know that those are some good movies.
Yeah, and really good characters, but if they're based off of one dude that inspired all these stories.
Yeesh.
Right. Edward Theodore Gein was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin on August 27th, 1906, the second of two boys to George Gein and Augusta. Gein had an older brother named Henry. Augusta, who was very religious and Lutheran, frequently preached to her sons about the innate immorality of the world and the evil of drinking, and her belief that all women, apart from herself of course, were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil.
All right.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
what we're starting with here.
All right.
This is upbringing. She reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from the Old Testament and the book of Revelation concerning death, murder, and divine retribution. So this is psychotically religious and anti-women is what he is being raised in.
Gotcha, yep.
Augusta also hated her husband. He was an alcoholic who was unable to keep a job. He had worked at various times as a carpenter, a tanner, which is like somebody that does...
It preserves the skins for deer.
Animals, yeah, right.
Yep.
And he was also an insurance salesman. During his time in La Crosse, Gein's father owned a local grocery shop as well, but he soon sold the business and left the city with his family to live in isolation on a 155-acre farm in the town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, which became their permanent residence. Augusta took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who could have influenced her sons. Ed was only allowed to leave the farm to attend school. Outside of school, he spent most of his time doing chores on the farm. He was shy, and his classmates and teachers remembered him as having strange mannerisms, such as seemingly random laughter, as if he were laughing at his own personal jokes. To make matters worse, Augusta punished him whenever he tried to make friends. So a really harsh upbringing, it sounds like. And it also sounds like maybe some mental instability already on his part as a kid. On April 1st, 1940, Ed's father died of heart failure caused by his alcoholism at age 66. Ed and his brother Henry began doing odd jobs around town to help cover living expenses. The brothers were generally considered reliable and honest by the rest of the community. While both worked as handymen, Ed also frequently babysat for neighbors. He enjoyed babysitting, seemingly able to relate more easily to children than adults. That's what I'm saying with the mental. There's something wrong with him even at an earlier age.
Gotcha.
Henry began dating a divorced mother of two and planned to move in with her. He worried about his brother's attachment to their mother and often spoke ill of her around Ed, who responded with shock and hurt. He didn't like his brother talking bad about his mom. They had a very oddly close relationship.
Okay.
Almost inappropriate.
Oh, okay.
On May 16th, 1944, Ed was burning away marsh vegetation on the property. The fire got out of control, drawing the attention of the local fire department. By the end of the day, the fire had been extinguished and the firefighters gone. Ed reporting his brother missing. With lanterns and flashlights, a search party searched for 43-year-old Henry, whose dead body was found lying face down. Apparently, he had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of death was heart failure, since he had not been burned or injured otherwise.
Okay.
It was later reported, though, that Henry had bruises on his head.
Oh.
That doesn't sound like heart failure.
No.
Police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death.
Wow.
So that's
okay.
completely
There's
different.
Three things going on.
Right. So it's not heart failure. It's not blunt force trauma, but it's asphyxiation.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay. That's odd.
Yeah. The authorities accepted the accident theory, but no official investigation was ever conducted and an autopsy was never performed.
Wow. That is all just not right.
But also, this is 1940s.
Okay. Yeah, I do
So,
forget
a little
that
different.
sometimes that we're back in time on some of these.
Yep. With Henry deceased, Ed and Augusta were now alone. Augusta had a paralyzing stroke shortly after Henry's death, and Ed devoted himself to taking care of her. Sometime in 1945, he later recounted he and his mother visited a man named Smith, who lived nearby, to purchase straw. According to Ed, Augusta witnessed Smith beating a dog. A woman inside the Smith residence came outside and yelled for him to stop, but Smith beat the dog to death. Augusta was extremely upset by this scene. However, what bothered her did not appear to be the brutality toward the dog, but rather the presence of the woman. Yeah, Augusta told Ed that the woman was not married to Smith and had no business being there, and angrily called her Smith's harlot.
Okay.
She had a second stroke soon after, and her health deteriorated rapidly. Augusta died on December 29, 1945, at the age of 67. Ed was devastated by her death. It was told later by one of his psychiatrists that he had lost his only friend and true love and was absolutely alone in the world without her. True love.
Okay.
That's what I mean by a very inappropriate relationship.
Yeah, that's different.
There are actually only 2 confirmed murders attributed to Ed Gein. On the morning of November 16th, 1957, 58-year-old Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. The hardware store's truck was seen driving out from the rear of the building at around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store saw few customers the entire day. Some area residents believe that this was because of deer hunting season. Warden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, entered the store around 5 o'clock p.m. to find the cash register open and bloodstains on the floor.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Frank Warden told investigators that on the evening before his mother's disappearance, Ed had been in the store and was having to return the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze. The sales slip for the antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on the morning that she disappeared. That evening, Ed was arrested at the West Plainfield grocery store, and the sheriff's department searched the Gein farm. A sheriff's deputy discovered Warden's decapitated body in a shed on Gein's property, hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes around her wrists. The torso was, quote, dressed out like a deer.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
She had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, and the mutilations were made after death. Searching the house, though, is where it got really gruesome.
Oh no.
Mhm.
As if that ain't gruesome enough. Holy crap.
Right. So authorities got to search his house and his farm, and what they found was really shocking. They found whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Human skin covering several chair seats.
Oh,
Skulls on his bedposts. Female skulls, some with the tops sawn off. Bowls made from human skulls. A corset made from a female torso skinned from the shoulders to the waist. So hearing just these couple things first automatically take me to Buffalo Bill, because he wanted to make a skin suit and he was going to take the skin off the back of the ladies.
Yeah.
And then the skulls on the bedpost and all over. It's like the Texas Chainsaw House to me.
Right. Yeah.
So I can see the inspiration.
I'm thinking though, like that. This sounds like a lot, and he's only 2 confirmed murders.
Confirmed.
Wow. Yeah, but this is a lot.
That's
for
a lot
only
of people.
2 people.
Right. Well, obviously it was more, but maybe they can only account for 2 people.
Man.
We'll get there. They also found leggings made from human leg skin.
Oh my goodness.
Masks made from the skin of female heads, just like Leatherface.
Oh, and in the House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yep. They found Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack. Also her heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove.
Oh no.
9 vulva in a shoebox.
Oh.
That's the women
Goodness. Yeah.
bits,
Yeah.
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 Okay. 9 of them.
Oh goodness.
2 confirmed murders.
Yeah, but there's 9 of those.
I wonder where he got them.
Yeah. Oh God.
a young girl's dress, and the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old, a belt made from human nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, and a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and a lot of fingernails from women.
Wow. I mean, come
Right.
on.
It is said that he followed the Nazis in Germany, and he read a lot about them. And there was a woman, a Nazi woman, that made lampshades from human skin over there too, and that
okay.
he liked that idea, and that's where he got a lot of his ideas.
My goodness.
These artifacts were photographed at the state crime lab and then, quote, decently disposed of. When questioned, Ed told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he had made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to the local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies while he was in a dazed-like state. So he only murdered 2, but he stole from a lot of already dead people.
Oh my goodness.
He was a grave robber.
That explains where he's getting all these parts, but has only killed 2 people.
Right.
Wow.
On about 30 of those visits, he said that he came out of the daze while in the cemetery and left the grave in good order and returned home empty-handed. On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother, took their bodies home where he tanned their skins and made his paraphernalia.
Holy crap. That's insane.
Ed admitted to stealing from 9 graves and led investigators to their locations. The state crime laboratory participated in opening 3 test graves identified by Ed. The caskets were inside wooden boxes. The top boards ran crossways, not lengthwise. The tops of the boxes were about 2 feet below the surface of sandy soil. Ed had robbed the graves soon after the funerals while the graves were not completed. The test graves were exhumed because authorities were uncertain as to whether the slight Ed Gein was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening. They were found, as Ed described, one casket was empty, and other casket contained Ed's crowbar. The final casket saw most of the body missing, yet Ed had returned rings and some other body parts.
Oh my goodness.
Thus, his confession was largely corroborated.
Holy cow, man. Wow.
Can you imagine going to dig up a grave and there's only pieces left inside?
Or a crowbar.
Or a crowbar.
You know, the dude's
No
crowbar.
body. No body, just a crowbar.
Wow.
Or he'd return some pieces.
Yeah.
Soon after his mother's death, Ed began to create a woman suit so that he could, quote, become his mother, to literally crawl into her skin. Yeah.
Oh, man.
He denied having sex with the bodies he exhumed, explaining they smelled too bad. Right? During state crime lab interrogation, Ed also admitted to shooting 51-year-old Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since December 1954, whose head was also found in the house. But he later denied memory of the details of her death. A 16-year-old child whose parents were friends of Ed and who attended baseball games and movies with him reported that Ed kept shrunken heads in his house, which he described as relics sent by a cousin who served in the Philippines during World War II. Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human facial skins carefully peeled from corpses and used by Gein as masks.
Oh my God.
So people had seen these things.
Wow.
And thought they were just like weird relics
Yeah, like
from the Philippines.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
They were actually real human skins.
That he dug up or something.
Yeah.
You know, oh my goodness.
So, although only guilty of 2 confirmed murders, he is actually suspected of many more. In addition to the murders of Hogan and Warden, he was also considered the suspect in several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin. In November 1957, authorities confronted Ed with a list of missing persons cases that had occurred between the death of his mother and Warden. Their suspicions were further aroused after discovery of Hogan's remains. However, lie detector tests seemingly exonerated Ed of any other murders, and his psychiatrist concluded that his violence was only directed to women who physically resembled his mother.
Wow, weird.
Although he had the private parts of 15-year-old girls in his home. So that really doesn't
But we
match.
do know that he is very capable of digging up graves at
Right.
his will. So,
That's true.
I mean, and he told the truth about a lot of things. That was,
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much admitted everything he was doing. And then they're pretty bizarre, horrible things like making skin suits because he wanted to be his
I
mom.
mean, it's terrible. It's crazy, but I mean, I would almost have to say I'd believe him, he would admit to it, I would think, because he likes, he likes it. So he'd admit to it for sure. I
Yeah,
think.
right. But they're still
Mm.
trying to attribute him to some missing people in the area, one being Georgia Weckler. She was only 8, disappeared from her farm on May 1st, 1947. She was given a lift home from grade school by a neighbor who dropped her off on the lane that led to U.S. Highway 12 by her farm. She was last seen pausing to open the family mailbox and removing a stack of mail, but she was never seen again. Witnesses reported seeing a dark color, possibly black 1936 Ford with a gray plastic spotlight in the vicinity of that afternoon. Gein owned a Ford just like that, apparently.
Oh, man. Dang.
Another missing girl was Evelyn Hartley, age 15, who went missing while babysitting a 20-month-old girl at the home of La Crosse State College professor on the evening of October 24th, 1953. That evening, her father called the house several times after she failed to check in as planned at 8:30. He received no answer. Concerned, he drove to the home to find the doors were locked, the lights and the radio were on, and it seemed scattered stuff all over the house. The living room furniture had been moved around to different places, as were Evelyn's school books. Richard found her shoes in a different room, one shoe upstairs and one downstairs. He also found his daughter's broken glasses upstairs, but he did not find her. After his arrest, Ed was considered to be a suspect in her disappearance, as he was visiting a relative a few blocks from the house where she was at the time. He denied involvement in the disappearance and passed 2 lie detector tests,
Wow.
but they never found her.
All right. Well, this is more than one now that he's been around
And been near,
or been, yeah.
right?
So,
Another was a gentleman this time, a Victor Travis, aged 41. He went off to hunt deer with a friend, a resident of Milwaukee, on November 1st, 1950, in the late afternoon. A pair stopped for refreshments at Mac's Bar in Plainfield for several hours. Around 7 p.m., they both left the bar, got into Burgess's car, and drove away. The hunters, along with the car he was driving, were never seen again. Right?
okay. So did he pass another lie detector test on that one?
Well, they found out that they had been hunting on the farm next to Gein's property, but he says that he had nothing to do with it.
Man, so okay, so maybe he's not so believable. Maybe he took part in more, and for some reason just don't want to admit to all of them.
Yeah, I think, is he more comfortable being a grave robber
Right.
than a
yeah.
murderer?
Yeah.
On November 21st, 1957, Ed was arraigned on 1 count of first-degree murder, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. He was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, a maximum security facility, and later transferred to another hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. In 1968, doctors determined he was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. So the trial began on November 7th, 1968, and lasted 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Ed had told him he did not know whether the killing of Warden was intentional or accidental. Ed had told him that while he examined a gun in Miss Warden's store, the weapon discharged, killing her. He said that he had not aimed the rifle at her and didn't remember anything else that happened that morning. At the request of the defense, Ed's trial was held without a jury, with Judge Robert Gulmer presiding. Ed was found guilty by the judge on November 14th. A second trial dealt with Gein's sanity. After testimony by doctors for the prosecution and defense, he ruled Gein not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane.
Wow.
Gein spent the rest of his life in the mental hospital.
Wow.
The judge wrote, due to prohibitive cost, Gein was tried for only 1 murder, that of Miss Warden. He also admitted to killing Mary Hogan. Ed died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure secondary to lung cancer on June 26, 1984, at the age of 77. Over the years, souvenir seekers chipped pieces of his gravestone at the Plainfield Cemetery until the stone itself was stolen in 2000.
Oh my goodness, people.
Yeah,
Come on.
It was recovered in June 2001 near Seattle, Washington.
Oh my.
Yeah, it made it all the way to Seattle. It was on a tour, apparently.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was recovered in June 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and was placed in storage in the sheriff's department. So it made it all the way across the country.
Bro, that's insane to me. That's wild.
The gravesite itself is now unmarked but not unknown. Ed is interred between his parents and his brother in the cemetery in Plainfield.
Oh.
And his house is like a big tourist attraction now. People can drive by it. And actually, Ghost Adventures went there and did an overnight at his house too. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I get the, wanting to gawk and wanting to see and take a picture and, stuff like that.
Steal his gravestone?
Yeah, chunk some stones off and steal his gravestone.
It's
Might as well
weird.
try to get a hold of some of his items. Then,
Right. The potbelly stove in his home is still there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty creepy. Pretty creepy dude, but he inspired it all. All of our Halloween horror movies were based pretty much on this guy.
Wild. That's wild. And then, when you think someone like the Toy Box Killer could possibly be like
the worst,
grossest and nastiest sicko, you come up with another one that set the trend almost for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's
inspired all of our favorite horror movie bad guys. All based off of one guy.
Insane.
That is insane. He was insane.
And
absolutely.
I would never argue the verdict on this one.
So this is another one too.
Insane.
We always talk about nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Is it mom's fault that he's a psycho? Because his mom sounds real crazy.
A rough start at life for this one, that's for sure.
Same story with Edmund Kemper. We talked about terrible mother, terrible parenting, and he, killed a bunch of women and her. So.
Yeah, yep.
Some wild stories, but that's it for our Halloween extravaganza.
Yeah.
We hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate you being here. And we just want to ask you to hit the thumbs up, subscribe. It would help the algorithm grab a hold of our channel and push us along and grow us a little more.
Yeah, come back next week for another true crime story.
See you then.